All right, everyone, take some Advil, try and sober up. This is the 8th weekly homework composition challenge, and this week we're studying secondary dominants. Over the last 7 weeks, we've experimented with different chord progressions, and but 7 times 12 is 84, so that's 84 different songs you could write right now. But you also find out that gets a little boring after a while. So people had asked about variations, and I wanted to sort of work us up to a place where I was comfortable discussing them. So if we look at the C major chord, and we've spent a lot of time with that 1, 4, 5, you see that the dominant, the 5, is G major, is G. And so if we then look at the G major scale, what we've got going on there is that in the 5th of that scale, in that dominant position, we've got a D chord. Now, you see that we go back up to C major, it's a D minor, and down here in G major, it's a D major. What we're going to do is we're going to practice substituting out the dominant of the C major scale, or whatever scale you're working with the dominant 7 chord of that scale, that ensuing scale. So in this case, C major, we go over, we see, okay, the dominant is G, and if we look at the dominant of the G major scale, we see that's D, and we're going to make that a 7 chord. That's a dominant 7 chord, and that's the only 7 chord we're going to discuss for the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to have a whole big exposition on just 7th chords. But for now, we're going to look at that D7 chord, and if you look, you'll see it's D, F sharp, A, and C are the 4 notes that make it up. So that's the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th, which we've looked at with those major triads. And we're also adding that flatted 7, which just happens to be C, which, remember, we're substituting that dominant 7 into something in the C major. Obviously, if it was another key, you'd see that flatted 7th from the 5-7 chord of the dominant, that V7/V, is the note of the scale that we started with. So that leads to some nice voice leading. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play that 1, 5, 6, 4 progression that we did last week. And so listen to that, try to remember what that sounds like. So now we're going to swap out, we're going to take that G chord, and we're going to substitute the dominant 7 of the dominant. And so we're going to play C, D7, A minor, F. Okay, I resolved that with a C, G, F, just to give it a little resolution. But I hope you can feel that difference. But, those aren't the only kinds of secondary dominants. So, but, there's more to discuss. So now let's talk about taking the secondary dominant of the submediant. So if we look, we're looking for what's that 6th chord. So that submediant is A. We look at the A minor scale. Look who's sitting in that 5 position, but E. In this case, it's an E minor, but when we use these secondary dominants, we're bringing in the we're bringing in the major version, and again, we're adding that 7th note. So in this case, when we add the 7th note to E7, so the E7 chord is E, G sharp, B, and then we add that flatted 7, that D note, which is great because that happens to be the 2nd note in C. So, and also happens to be the dominant of the dominant. So that works nicely. And so now if we listen, we're going to play just the C, D7, F, and now we're going to substitute out that chord we originally had with an E7. So let's hear how that sounds. So again, has a much different flavor. And so now let's take the 2 of those together, that sort of idea of substitution. And so, what we'll do is we'll take, the first time around, what we'll play is C, D7, A minor, F, and then we'll do C, D7, F, E7. And so we've done a couple substitutions, and it's not the first straight progression we started with. We've done a little moving around and substitution, but we've got something that I think you'll agree sounds fairly rich, and there's room to explore. So now what I would like everyone to spend this week doing is to go back through some of those chord progressions we had explored before and experiment with replacing either the dominant, the 5 chord, or the submediant, the 6. To replace that with the 5 of 5, or in this case the 5 of 6. And see what you can get out of it. So this is, again, more of an exploring a theoretical aspect, but also you pay attention to those 7 chords. Try substituting a D major instead of a D7 and go back and forth and see what you think that sounds like, and see if you can sort of feel why it leads better if you include the 7th, the flatted 7th note, rather. So I'm sorry this one went a little long. It's a petty subject. Next week, hopefully, it'll be a bit shorter a video, and we'll also get a chance to look at the 5 of 4. But for now, the 5 of 5 and the 5 of 6, I think that'll keep you busy. And I'm around if you have any questions, because I know this is a kind of heady subject. So good luck, everyone, and I look forward to hearing what you have next week.